On payday, the intern asked me for the salary list of all employees. I firmly refused and then went to the restroom. As soon as I sat on the toilet, I was bombarded with group messages. The intern actually used my WeChat to send the entire employee salary list in the company's large group chat with 500 members. At supervising from finance, you sent the payroll sheet to the employee group. That one sentence confirmed my negligence. I immediately went to explain to my supervisor, but ended up getting fired, and yet, because she made a great contribution, she was promoted to a full-time position and given a raise. My dad went to reason with the intern, but he was falsely accused of harassment and was beaten to death by an extreme passerby. When I opened my eyes again, it was the day the salary was paid, trying to climb the ladder by framing me, then I'll take your path, leaving you with no way to go. At 1001 #manager, could you let me take a look at the employee payroll? Linan's voice reached my ears, and it took me a long moment to react. I've been reborn. In my previous life, I only thought she was joking. After sternly refusing, I didn't take it seriously. As a result, she actually acted out of spite by posting the entire staff salary sheet in the large group chat and made me take the blame. Supervisor, I'm just curious about everyone's salaries. I'll just take a quick look and definitely won't leak it. Is that okay? Linan shook my arm while acting cute. Raising her hand to swear with a completely innocent expression, I clenched my fists tightly to resist the urge to slap her across the face. No, get out. When I spoke again, I abandoned my usual kindness and refused with a cold expression. She was about to say something more, but I cut her off directly. Didn't you hear me? I raised my voice, exuding authority without showing anger. Linan didn't dare to say more. As soon as she left, I quickly locked the office door. I took out the newly purchased hidden camera from the drawer and hid it on the bookshelf facing my computer. The hidden camera was actually bought by my dad for me to use at home for theft prevention. At that time, I said with a laugh, "Don't worry, Linan is living with me, absolutely safe." But I never expected that the thief I should have been most wary of was actually her, trying to frame me. I'll give you the chance. After setting up the hidden camera, I pretended to have a stomachache and hurried to the restroom. Sure enough, when Linan saw me leave the office, she couldn't hide the excitement in her eyes. Even though I already knew her true nature, my heart still ached with pain. Linan was an intern I personally recruited for the finance department. Since she's the girl next door I watched grow up, I take extra care of her. During her internship, I shared my experience without holding back, covered for her mistakes, and often praised her in front of the chairman. Knowing she couldn't afford rent, I let her stay at my place without charging a single penny. Knowing she was reluctant to spend on good food, I often treated her to lavish meals, covering all the expenses. I treat her like my own sister, but she sees me as a stepping stone to climb higher. The supervisor often complained to me about her low salary, but I never expected her to be so vindictive. Linan turned against me in the name of justice, exposing my negligence in front of the chairman. I couldn't defend myself because the salary sheet was sent to the group chat from my WeChat. Finally, I was fired and blacklisted from the entire industry. When my father found out about this, he knelt down and begged Linan to help prove my innocence. Who would have thought that she would falsely accuse my father of trying to rape her, with the words, "What girl would use her own innocence to falsely accuse someone else?" He nailed my father to the pillar of shame. My father was beaten to death by an extreme passerby. When I went to settle accounts with Linan, I suddenly had a heart attack. The fast-acting heart relief pills in my backpack were snatched by her and poured out. 1 second before my heart stopped beating, I saw Chief Financial Officer Zhubiao walk into the office, looking very pleased with himself. At 1001 my beating heart was reminding me that I must get revenge. I deliberately took a detour to the restroom. As I passed through the office area, I dropped my phone into the flower watering bucket in front of everyone. I exclaimed in surprise as I fished out my phone, but it wouldn't turn on anymore. All my colleagues felt sorry for me and offered various words of comfort and suggestions. Although I'm the finance manager, a 12,000 yuan phone is still a significant expense for me. My heart was truly bleeding. I didn't need to act. As my eyes were already welling up with genuine distress, 2 male colleagues from the business development department were particularly warm-hearted and offered to help me fix my phone. I thanked them profusely, left my phone with them, and hurried to the restroom with a tissue in hand, because at this time, colleagues from the sales department liked to order takeout in the restroom. They would become my alibi, proving I had no time to commit the crime. In the restroom, 3 female colleagues from the sales department were discussing what to have for lunch. As soon as I entered the restroom, I looked miserable. I explained how my phone fell into the water bucket and how a colleague from the business development department kindly helped me fix it. The 3 female colleagues were very warm-hearted and offered to order lunch for me online. We spent a full 10 minutes agonizing over what to eat, from diet meals to spicy hot pot, from fried noodles to dumplings. From grilled meat with rice to pizza, in the time spent agonizing over what to eat, I truly felt alive. In the end, we chose a boxed meal with 2 meat dishes and 1 vegetable dish, accelerating our weight loss. After using the full discount coupon, it only cost 8.5 yuan per person. 3 colleagues left the restroom very satisfied. Meanwhile, I continued to have diarrhea. In my previous life, at this time, Li Nan had already used my computer's WeChat to send the salary list of all employees to the large group. At that time, the company's surveillance system was broken, and no one could prove that I went to the restroom. Even if someone could prove I was in the restroom, the phone was still in my hand. I still couldn't prove that I wasn't the one who sent the payroll sheet. Now it's perfect, a closed loop. At 1001 hashtag, after timing it right, I secretly hid in the corner to watch my colleagues' reactions. Sure enough, the atmosphere in the office had changed. The usual overlapping sounds of keyboard clicks and discussions about what to have for lunch were gone. Instead, there was whispering. The detailed salary list of all company employees is prominently displayed in the chat window. 500 employees now know each other's salaries. Some are shocked. Some are furious, some are gloating. The group chat has exploded, with messages refreshing at a rate of several per second. At Supervisor Jing from Finance, you sent the payroll sheet to the employee group. Li Nan was the first to send a message in the group, followed by 3 horrified emojis. She thought she had successfully framed me and was secretly gloating while sitting in my seat. Soon after, unaware colleagues started tagging me one after another in the group. What is going on, huh? So my salary is the lowest. Someone has only been here for 6 months, and their salary is already 3,000 higher than mine. I am at the same level as someone, so why is her salary 2,000 higher than mine? In my previous life, seeing these messages made my vision go dark. I panicked and tried to recall the messages, but the system prompted, the message has been sent for more than 2 minutes and cannot be recalled. My hand holding the phone was trembling. And then the phone rang immediately. Jing Qian, come to my office immediately. The chairman's voice sounded as if it came from hell, suppressing overwhelming fury. In this lifetime, it's Li Nan's turn to bear this overwhelming fury. At 1001 hashtag, Li Nan rushed anxiously to the restroom to find me. Boss, something's happened. The chairman wants you in his office. I was sitting on the toilet folding paper boats out of toilet paper. I replied leisurely, my stomach is upset. I'll go as soon as I'm done. Li Nan sneered, thinking I was just scared and hiding in the bathroom, too afraid to come out. She said in a sarcastic tone, hurry up then, don't keep the chairman waiting. I didn't respond, but let out a long-held foul fart in her direction. She covered her nose in disgust and was driven away by the stench. How dare you complain about my fart being smelly? Your mouth is the one that's been smeared with dung. It's enough to choke someone to death. In her previous life, she hypocritically spoke up for me in front of the chairman. She made me explain to my colleagues, which ended up getting me severely scolded by the chairman. Jing Qian, what more do you have to explain? What do you need to explain to all the employees? Explain why there are different salaries for the same position. Explain why new employees have higher salaries than long-term employees. Explain why the sales department generally earns 20% more than the business development department. Of course, I know there's no way to explain it. These issues are usually tacitly understood by everyone, but now they're all laid bare on the table, and no one will listen to my explanations. I was just about to voice my grievances and explain that someone else was the real instigator when Li Nan beat me to it. Chairman, Supervisor Jing really didn't do it on purpose. Not on purpose, the chairman sneered coldly. Do you know what it means to send the payroll sheet to a 500-person group chat? Even after living a second life, I still shudder at the thought of the chairman's face that day, but Li Nan was completely unafraid, persistently stirring the pot. I know Manager Jing's negligence has caused significant losses to the company. This led to a complete loss of management authority, mutual suspicion among employees, and even triggered a wave of resignations. But I believe Supervisor Jing must have just made a mistake in the rush. It's absolutely not because he resents his low salary and is seeking malicious revenge. As soon as these words were spoken, the chairman's gaze toward me changed. Done. In my previous life, my mind was fixated on these 2 words, accompanied by a wave of dizziness. I fainted. I thought it might be because I was starving. At 1001 hashtag, no matter how big the world is, eating is the most important thing. Although the chairman was urgently looking for me, but I still took the takeout from the front desk and hid alone in the conference room, eating at a leisurely pace. After all, a full stomach is essential for winning battles, especially when I thought about Li Nan and the CFO Zhu Biao, who hadn't even had lunch before being called into the chairman's office to be reprimanded. My mood was absolutely fantastic. Because of the payroll incident, none of my colleagues are in the mood to work. As soon as I reached the entrance of the sales department, I heard several people complaining, Jingqian is really too much, she even sent the payroll to the wrong group chat, what on earth is she doing as the head of the finance department? The colleague who was echoing the complaint immediately fell into dead silence upon seeing me at the door. I didn't send the payroll sheet, I got straight to the point without beating around the bush. That's right. When the payroll sheet was sent to the group chat, you are ordering takeout with us in the restroom. Moreover, Supervisor Zheng's phone is broken. Finally, they remembered. 3 colleagues from the sales department proved my innocence, and other colleagues apologized to me one after another, and they helped me analyze who was most likely to have framed me. I stopped just at the right point, almost mentioning Li Nan's name. After we all tacitly understood, I went to the business development department to get my phone. Along the way, my colleagues looked at me with strange expressions. I could understand it all. From the moment the payroll was leaked, suspicion and dissatisfaction among the employees had already spread like wildfire. On this day in my previous life, my ears were constantly buzzing, as if millions of bees were fluttering their wings inside my skull. It made me wish I could find a crack in the ground to crawl into, in this life. I have the top 3 sales champions from the sales department backing me up, so I'm not afraid of anything. They helped spread the word for me all the way. My phone was broken, and I was ordering takeout with them in the restroom, so I simply had no time to send messages. 2 male colleagues from the business development department also helped vouch for me and returned the repaired phone to me. Don't underestimate the persuasive power of male colleagues. The 2 I picked are top-tier communicators among men. With just a few words from them, the whole world knows. Thanks to their persistent efforts, the entire company now knows I wasn't the one to blame. Besides the chairman's office, there are still people going hungry. At 1001 hashtag, when Li Nan found me, I was watching the surveillance footage on my phone. In the footage, Li Nan entered the password, found the payroll file in the desktop folder, and sent it to the group chat. The video was high definition, and the evidence was solid. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel emotional. Indeed, one must always be wary of others. Computer passwords should never be easily shared with anyone, especially with colleagues. Li Nan in the surveillance footage felt indignant after seeing my salary. Why does Jingqian get a salary of 15,000, while my salary is only 4,500? Blinded by jealousy, Li Nan had already forgotten that she was merely an intern, and I am the finance manager who has been with the company for 5 years. Jealousy twisted her face, and she actually spat 3 times on the photo on my desk. How disgusting. I can no longer look directly at the photo frame on my desk. While I was worrying about how to handle the photo frame, Li Nan came in. Supervisor, why are you still in the office? The chairman is furious. Of course I know. That's why I'm waiting for him to finish venting before I go see him. Li Nan pretended to pull me up from my seat, and I took the opportunity to grab her wrist and press it against the photo frame. Her palm perfectly covered the spot that had been spat on. Li Nan looked disgusted and was about to pull her hand back, but I didn't give her the chance. Nan, I might get expelled. This is my favorite photo frame, so I'll leave it to you. I lowered my head, my shoulders trembling as if I were sobbing. In reality, I couldn't hold back my laughter, and the corners of my mouth kept twitching. Li Nan stared at the photo frame, his face turning green. He didn't know whether to put the frame down or keep holding it. I looked up and urged, keep the frame, just take the photo out for me. Don't keep the chairman waiting, to hurry me along to see the chairman and get fired quickly. She had no choice but to endure the disgust and force a smile as she took apart the frame. Serves her right, serves you right for being uncivilized and spitting everywhere. At 1001 hashtag, when Li Nan and I walked into the chairman's office, it was already in chaos inside. Chairman, half of the business development department has surrounded my office, demanding an explanation for the salary discrepancy. Because they discovered that the commission for the business development department is actually 2 percentage points lower than that of the sales department. The chairman held his forehead and let out a heavy sigh. Let's calm them down first. I'll provide an explanation as soon as possible. The director of the investment department shook his head. It's no use. Old Wang in our department has the longest years of service, but the lowest base salary. He simply won't listen to any explanations. The employees in the business development and sales departments are the company's wolves. Perhaps other departments might express their dissatisfaction in subtle ways, but these wolves who let their performance do the talking certainly won't. In my previous life, they were also the ones who caused the most trouble. Chairman, Supervisor Xing didn't mean to do it. Li Nan is putting on an act again. But she doesn't know that the sales department and the investment promotion department have already reported my alibi to the chairman. The chairman naturally knows that I was wrongly accused. He was about to say something, but was interrupted by Chief Financial Officer Zhu Biao, who pushed the door open and entered. Manager Zheng, even though you've made a big mistake, you've been with the company for 5 years. You've always been an outstanding employee, the chairman is sure to give you a break. Right now, only he and Li Nan still don't know that I've already cleared my name. He comforted me warmly, but his eyes were cold. It wasn't until I saw Jubiao that I remembered, in my previous life, when he had a sudden heart attack and was dying, the look he gave me was full of hatred and triumph. Did Li Nan send the salary sheet to the group under Jubiao's instruction? Thinking of this, I dismissed the idea of presenting the surveillance footage. If we cannot capture all the enemies at once, it will lead to endless trouble in the future, especially in the workplace, and when the other party is my direct superior. I have worked in the company's finance department for 5 years, diligently and with outstanding abilities, earning the deep trust of the chairman. After the former financial director retired, that position should have been mine. However, Zhu Biao, as the chairman's brother-in-law, was parachuted into the company and became the financial director. I can understand, after all. No matter how close an employee is, they can never be as reliable as family. In terms of ability, Zhu Biao is no match for me. When it comes to connections alone, he completely outshines me. No matter how unwilling I am, I ultimately have to swallow it. In daily work, I spare no effort to help him solve work problems and clean up his mess. I dare not offend this great Buddha. I thought I had treated him fairly, but I never expected that he had long been displeased with me and wanted to get rid of me as soon as possible. No wonder Li Nan was promoted to a full-time position right after I resigned, and became a supervisor in less than half a year. So, her backer is Zhu Biao. In this lifetime, not a single person who has harmed me will get away, no matter who they are. At 1001 #Xingqian. I know this matter has nothing to do with you. The chairman spoke slowly. Li Nan and Zhu Biao stood there dumbfounded, unable to speak for a long time. After they learned what had happened, Li Nan asked unwillingly, "How could it be such a coincidence? Your phone just happened to fall into the bucket at that exact time. Weren't you having stomach trouble? Why weren't you in a hurry to go to the bathroom and instead chatted with the sales department for so long?" She regretted it as soon as she said it. Everyone in the office turned to look at her, their eyes full of curiosity. After all, the whole company knows that Li Nan is my person. I smiled, pretending not to understand her insinuation, and turned to speak to the chairman. "Chairman, although I was wrongfully accused, the payroll was indeed sent out from my WeChat. I request to take a leave of absence and be demoted to give everyone an explanation." The chairman was very satisfied with my attitude and reluctantly agreed. He also instructed the HR department to identify the instigator within a week. When leaving the chairman's office, Li Nan didn't say another word to me. Perhaps he thought I was no longer of any use. People are really pragmatic. I've become the talk of the company during breaks. However, the topic of their conversation shifted from salaries to who could be the one trying to frame me. Some well-meaning colleagues even suggested I go to the temple to pray, saying it would help step on the villains. I won't be going to the temple, though, because finding more evidence against Li Nan and Zhu Biao is what really matters. To figure out their relationship, I bought 3 hidden cameras. One was secretly placed in Zhu Biao's office, one was installed in Li Nan's bedroom, and one was installed in my own bedroom. As soon as the cameras were installed, I saw something that made my jaw drop. In Zhu Biao's office, Li Nan was sitting on his lap wearing only her underwear. The two of them had a deep conversation for 30 seconds and then stopped. TSK, Zhu Biao is truly incompetent from the inside out. I originally thought Li Nan betrayed me just to climb the social ladder. I never imagined she actually wanted to be a wealthy wife. Li Nan's family favored boys over girls, and she could only avoid being beaten by ranking first in exams. My father was warm-hearted and felt sorry that she had no parents to care for her, so he often secretly gave her tasty treats. He always told me, Nan is a pitiful child. We should help whenever we can. Therefore, I tutored her for free during both winter and summer vacations. Our family doesn't expect any repayment from Li Nan. We only want to help her secure a bright future. Who would have thought that she would return kindness with enmity and end up causing our deaths? Just thinking about how I actually lived under the same roof with such a person sends chills down my spine. I quickly saved the surveillance footage as a backup. At 1001 #. Just as I finished tidying up the office and walked out with the surveillance USB drive, I ran into Zhu Biao. What a jerk. He's so slow with his work. It takes him 3 days just to get me a financial report. Engaging in office politics is quite swift. When one scheme fails, another is immediately deployed. Xingqian, why are you holding up the reimbursement for the sales department? Me, sales department, the sales department's business trips are for boosting performance. You can't always make things difficult for them with the reimbursement process. This will dishearten the employees. Zhu Biao's voice was so loud that the sales department could hear every word clearly. How despicable. Seeing that I was being pitted by my colleagues, he wanted to harm me, but he really is a pig-headed fool, living up to his surname. Everyone in the sales department knows it was him who imposed all sorts of reimbursement restrictions after he parachuted in. And now he actually wants to shift the blame onto me. He has absolutely no shame. I politely forced a smile. Mr. Zhu, it's my fault. Last time you said the sales department couldn't stay in 5-star hotels during business trips, only budget hotels, and that we should pay for client meals out of our own pockets instead of getting reimbursed by the company. I thought you were probably just joking, but I took it seriously. I'm sorry. I bowed deeply 3 times to Zhu Biao. Zhu Biao was completely dumbfounded. He never expected someone as rule-abiding as me to openly mock him in public. What a joke. You're trying to kill me. Did you think I wouldn't fight back? In the past, because Zhu Biao was the chairman's brother-in-law, even though I knew he was incompetent, I still treated him with respect. After all, the company belongs to him. But now, I gripped the USB drive in my hand and sneered. Zhu Biao, as a live-in son-in-law, actually betrayed his marriage and had an affair with an employee. The chairman would never tolerate him. I've long heard that the chairman grew up relying only on his sister and is a super siscon. The reason he's looking for a live-in son-in-law is because he's afraid his sister might be bullied. If he knew Zhu Biao's true nature, why would he continue to indulge him? A clown about to be kicked out of a wealthy family. Why should I be afraid? Moreover, my change in attitude towards Zhu Biao was actually a hint to my colleagues. Li Nan's backer is none other than Zhu Biao. They conspired to deliberately post the payroll in the main group to frame me. Everyone in the sales department is sharp. They'll pick up on the clues from my attitude. At 1001 hashtag, to give Li Nan enough space to do bad things, I drove back to my hometown that very day. In 5 years of working, I never dared to take time off and never used any of my 5 annual leave days. Didn't Zhu Biao always say I was incompetent? Didn't Li Nan always complain that I never gave her a chance to show what she could do? Now I grant them their wish. A brief departure is to better defeat them. When I returned to my hometown, my father was in the garden using a hoe to remove weeds. The vegetable garden was kept in perfect order by him. Having lost once, I now cherish every moment I spend with him. Dad was very surprised to see me back, thinking something had happened to me. After all, I am a workaholic. Chan, are you okay? If anything's wrong, you must tell me. Don't carry it alone. My eyes reddened, and I shook my head. I snatched his hoe, placed it on the ground, and pulled him into the house. My mother passed away when I was 8 years old. My father, afraid I would suffer, never remarried. I worked hard just to give him a better life, but instead, I caused him to be beaten to death. At this thought, my nose stung with sorrow. My dad noticed something was off with my mood and frowned. Did something happen at work? If the job is too tough, just quit. I'll take care of you. As he said this, my dad took a bank card from the bedside table drawer and shoved it into my hand. Take it. There's 800,000 in this card. Dad's eyes sparkled with pride as he said this. 800,000. My father is a farmer who knows nothing but working the land. Yet he managed to save 800,000 for me. I can't even imagine how he managed to save this much money. I clutched the bank card in my hand and could no longer hold back my tears, hugged Dad tightly. Dad knew I was strong-willed and didn't ask any questions, just gently patted my back to comfort me. He prepared 3 meals a day with various methods, afraid that I wouldn't eat well. During these days back in my hometown, the more time I spend with my dad, the more I wish I could tear Li Nan into pieces. At 1001 hashtag, after dinner, I locked the door from the inside and took out my phone to check the surveillance footage. Li Nan actually brought Zhu Biao back to my house. They were even having sex in my bedroom. Holy crap, did I sleep on the same bed they had sex on before? I hope I don't catch anything. Just as I couldn't bear to watch the scene, Li Nan's voice came from inside. Brother Biao, Xingqian's house is too small. I want a place of my own. Li Nan gently brushed Zhu Biao's sensitive areas with her hair. Zhu Biao was thoroughly enjoying it and agreed without hesitation. No problem, while Xingqian is away, we can just transfer the 100 million from the account. I'll buy you a villa then. Let Xingqian take the blame again. Black-hearted scoundrel, harming me once wasn't enough, and now you actually want to harm me a second time. Now we have both the culprit and the evidence, just waiting to close the net. As long as they transfer 100 million. I can make sure they spend the rest of their lives in prison. When the surveillance footage captured Zhu Biao transferring the 100 million, I immediately packed my bags to return to the company. My dad placed a box of cured sausages in the trunk of the car. Chan, these are for you and Nan to eat. Nan prefers the leaner ones. I put them at the bottom of the box. Don't mix them up. My dad really cares about Li Nan. I sighed softly. Dad, if Li Nan wanted to harm me, what would you do? My dad didn't react for a moment, and just as I was about to say it was just a joke, he suddenly spoke. His expression was serious and stern. Chan, Dad won't let anyone hurt you, not even Li Nan. The intensity in his voice made it sound like he was heading into battle. When I was a child, I often felt jealous because my dad always stood up for Li Nan. But now I've let it all go. Dad will always love me the most. My dad is very perceptive and noticed something unusual in my words. Did Li Nan do something to let you down? I tacitly agreed. Who would have thought that the next second, he suddenly opened the box of sausages and took out all the sausages that were specially prepared for Li Nan, heartless and ungrateful. Such good meat of mine can't be fed to a dog. I laughed so hard I humped like a goose. I never expected that the happiest laugh after my rebirth would actually come from my dad, at 1001 hashtag. After returning to the company, I made a special trip to find Aunt Wang, the cleaning lady. I gave her 10 of the cured sausages my dad had smoked. Aunt Wang is like a legendary figure in the company, and her ears are incredibly sharp. All the gossip I know comes from her. Sure enough, as soon as Aunt Wang saw me, she started chatting about everyday matters. The company has been so lively during your vacation. Aunt Wang mysteriously pulled me aside. Oh, I feigned surprise, successfully sparking Aunt Wang's desire to confide. It turned out that during my vacation, Li Nan had been promoted early by Zhu Biao, but after Li Nan became a full-time employee, he focused all his energy on buying a house and neglected his work. As a result, the sales department's shipping orders were backlogged for a long time. September and October are peak sales seasons, and distributors grew anxious as they couldn't receive the goods on time. They called every day to complain to the sales team. If we miss the peak sales season, the ordered goods won't be sold. If the distributors can't sell the goods, the sales department's commissions will be lost. Because of Li Nan, everyone in the sales department has been reduced to groveling, and they all went to Zhu Biao to complain. But instead of punishing Li Nan, Zhu Biao even promoted her to financial manager. As a result, the sales director and Zhu Biao had a 2-hour shouting match in the conference room, slamming the table, and Zhu Biao is nothing but a pig. As the financial director, instead of focusing on financial reports, he spends every day watching which female employee wears lipstick or buys a new dress. He made inappropriate jokes about female employees during the morning meeting, which angered everyone. TSK. What a pig that only walks with its lower body. Manager Zhang, you're finally back. The sales department has missed you so much. I believe Aunt Wang's words. After all, I am the one who can bring benefits to the sales department. Now I'm also experiencing the benefits of taking annual leave. Only by occasionally stepping away from the position for a few days will colleagues realize who the truly capable person is. Sometimes, being diligent and dedicated at work is a good thing, but you should also take appropriate breaks to let your leaders know your importance. At 1001 hashtag. The annual year-end party is about to arrive. When submitting the outstanding employees from each department, Zhu Biao strongly recommended Li Nan. After all, the salary list had just been leaked, and I could not escape responsibility. The chairman was still hesitating, but I fully supported it. For this reason, the chairman privately approached me. Xing Qian, I fully recognize your abilities. That matter wasn't your fault. Why must you, chairman? I interrupted him respectfully, saying, my loyalty to the company and to you is absolute, as long as it can reassure all the employees in the company. Whether it's an outstanding employee award or not doesn't matter, because I believe that you will surely see my abilities and efforts. The chairman was moved by my awareness and immediately promised, the position of CFO will be yours sooner or later. My eyes slightly reddened, and I pretended to be moved. Actually, I'm moved to finally find a good opportunity to send Li Nan and Zhu Biao to hell. At the annual meeting, Li Nan sat at the main table with the chairman. During the toast, she couldn't have been more attentive. Although the chairman was dissatisfied with her abilities, he couldn't resist the flattery and was grinning from ear to ear. After Li Nan finished toasting the main table, she skillfully made her way over to me. Her performative personality flared up as she took my hand. Sister Qian, I owe all my success today to you. Thank you. I didn't hesitate to take credit, affectionately putting my arm around her shoulder. Don't talk nonsense. You've achieved what you have today entirely through your own efforts, isn't that right? You refuse to take the broad, smooth road, but instead seek out the darkest, most dangerous paths. You're asking for trouble. I raised my voice, deliberately making sure the chairman could hear. You were personally promoted by General Manager Zhu Biao, and he has been so good to you. Today, you must drink a few more glasses with him. Upon hearing this, the chairman frowned and gave Zhu Biao a meaningful look. Zhu Biao, being as clueless as a pig, didn't notice at all. The annual meeting moved into the Outstanding Employee Award ceremony, and Li Nan went on stage to receive the award. While she was enthusiastically delivering her Outstanding Employee Acceptance speech, her work phone's WeChat sent a video to a 500-person group chat. The video was surveillance footage of her secretly logging into my computer and sending the payroll sheet to the group. The employees gasped and began whispering to each other. I contentedly picked up my wine glass and took a sip. Take her path, leaving her with no way to go. I finally waited for this day. Through a hidden camera, I learned that Li Nan kept the work phone in the bedroom drawer, so I called my dad and told him everything. There's no other way in this world. Only my father would never betray me, and I can only trust him. My father suppressed the urge to beat Li Nan to death and chose to quietly cooperate with me at home. This video was posted by him at 1001 hashtag. Li Nan was still delivering her outstanding employee speech, completely unaware that the audience had long been growing restless, so it was her. Xingqian treated her so well. And she actually framed her. How disgusting. Working with her is the worst luck in 8 lifetimes. Everyone whispered, their voices growing louder, and they all looked at her with strange expressions. Li Nan finally realized something was wrong. Standing on the stage, she was at a loss, her eyes filled with fear. I stood up in disbelief. Li Nan, I treated you like my own sister. How could you set me up? Zhu Biao was about to defend Li Nan when I cut him off with my words. Mr. Zhu, I know you've always favored Li Nan, but the facts are right in front of us. Are you still going to speak up for her? I just don't understand. You're a married man. Why are you so good to Li Nan? As soon as these words were spoken, Zhu Biao panicked. He didn't care about the beauty on stage, grabbing the chairman's arm as he tried to explain. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to give him the chance. My dad had already sent the video of him and Li Nan rolling in bed to the main group chat. The room was filled with gasps of disbelief. The chairman, upon seeing the video, angrily slapped Zhu Biao twice, knocking him to the ground. Li Nan was about to step off the stage when the chairman shouted angrily, "Stay right there." Li Nan turned pale and trembled as she asked what had happened. Unfortunately, everyone looked at her as if she were a clown, and no one responded to her, because the video was sent from Li Nan's work WeChat. Zhu Biao thought Li Nan was deliberately trying to climb the ladder by doing this, so he angrily rushed onto the stage and kicked her down. "Bitch, what good does betraying me do for you? I bought you a car and a house, and you actually betrayed me." Zhu Biao might really have no brains, as he actually confessed without being pressed. The chairman was furious upon hearing this and immediately called his sister, telling her to get a divorce. The sales director kindly reminded him from the side. "Chairman, please don't be angry." Fortunately, General Manager Zhu and Li Nan only had an affair. If they had been embezzling company assets, that would have been truly impossible to guard against. The chairman was suddenly enlightened and immediately ordered me to audit the accounts. The audit revealed a shocking discovery. 1 billion yuan was missing from the accounts. The room fell into dead silence. And all the employees looked at Zhu Biao and Li Nan with expressions full of disgust and shock, as if the 1 billion they stole was their own. I walked onto the stage with deep anguish. "Li Nan, I knew all along that it was you who posted the payroll in the group to frame me, but out of consideration for our past relationship, I never exposed you. I understand your desire to climb the social ladder, but I never expected you to become a mistress." The more I spoke, the more agitated I became. As if I had truly been heartbroken. At that moment, my father released the surveillance footage of the two of them transferring company assets. With the evidence solid, their days are numbered. At 1001 hashtag, Li Nan mustered his courage and rushed off the stage to grab his phone and look. He plopped down on the ground. I sneered and stepped forward. "How could you break the law? Are you and Zhu Biao trying to transfer all the company's assets? Do you want to cause the chairman to go bankrupt? Do you want to make all 500 employees in the company lose their jobs?" As I voiced my accusations one after another, the employees' emotions were successfully stirred into anger. For a moment, the situation became uncontrollable, and Li Nan and Zhu Biao were beaten by the group of employees. Hearing their screams reminded me of the tragic state my father was in before his death in my previous life. I hope they get beaten to death, otherwise it won't be enough to vent the hatred in my heart. Finally, the chairman managed to regain control of the situation and called the police. "It's you, Xingqian. Why did you try to harm me?" Li Nan screamed hysterically at me before being taken away by the police. I was so angry I laughed. Bad people really don't suffer from inner turmoil and never look for reasons within themselves. At this point, saying more is useless. Li Nan and Zhu Biao were sentenced to 10 years in prison. Because she didn't fit in, she was beaten daily by murderers in the same prison and eventually died a miserable death. As for Zhu Biao, the chairman had people curse his ancestors 18 generations every day. He was so afraid of death that he actually tried to escape from prison. Unfortunately, he forgot that he had a pig's brain. He was shot and killed during the escape. The day I learned of their deaths, I breathed a long sigh of relief. Who says bad people don't get what they deserve? I drove home to pick up my dad for a trip. On the way, my dad blamed himself, thinking it was his being a good person that had harmed me. I held his hand and smiled. "Dad, stop the internal strife. It's never been our fault." End of story. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. Archaeologists discovered a 1,000-year-old ancient tomb. and my husband's childhood sweetheart begged me to give up my application to lead the team and let her take the position. I knew full well that she lacked the necessary skills, and since this excavation was of great significance to the international archaeological community, I firmly refused. The childhood sweetheart tearfully left the archaeological team and instead joined a group of tomb raiders, only to die while attempting to loot a tomb. Meanwhile, I successfully led the team in excavating the ancient tomb, discovered a new civilization's remains, and was promoted to the youngest director in the archaeology department. But during a later tomb collapse, while waiting for rescue, my husband, who was in the same team as me, knocked me unconscious and sealed me alive inside the coffin. He told the rescue team that arrived, "There's no one inside," at my funeral. My husband looked at my portrait with a frenzied expression. "It was you who stole Meow Meow's position as team leader, causing her to die in the tomb while tomb raiding. What she suffered, you must suffer twice as much. This is all you owe her." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day when my childhood sweetheart was about to become the archaeology team leader. "Sukan, I just need one more research project to qualify for the senior professional title. You're already a professor. Could you give me a chance? Are you making me the team leader for this ancient tomb excavation?" In the spacious and bright conference room, some people had already started to leave. Miao Yusin walked up to me, looking at me with eager eyes. I just stared at the notebook in front of me, hardly able to believe that I had actually been reborn. I was reborn to the moment when Miao Yusin asked me to give up leading the team into the tomb. In my previous life, Miao Yusin used the exact same words, pleading with me to give up competing for the position of the archaeology team leader, but I knew very well that she was only half-skilled in field archaeology, and most of her achievements up to now were just for show. Moreover, this archaeological operation was extremely important, and the higher-ups placed great emphasis on the excavation of this ancient tomb. The first exploration mission could not afford any mistakes. So I decisively refused her, only saying fair selection, even if she wasn't the team leader. As a member of the archaeological team, this operation could become a shining point in her resume, but Miao Yusin felt that I looked down on her, cried and said I was using my authority to pressure her, and directly withdrew from the archaeological team. Starting to work with tomb raiders, he engaged in the business of tomb raiding. However, with the archaeological excavation of the tomb about to begin, I didn't pay much attention to her. Instead, I led the archaeological team in successfully exploring the ancient tomb. We also successfully brought back highly valuable first-hand materials and discovered previously unrecorded traces of a new civilization in history. Thanks to the research achievements from this project, I was promoted to the youngest director in the archaeology department and quickly gained fame. Later, during an emergency repair of an ancient tomb, the burial chamber collapsed, trapping my husband Wu Yiqing and me inside as we waited for rescue. He knocked me unconscious, stuffed me into the coffin in the burial chamber, and left me on top of the 1,000-year-old corpse, trapping me alive until I died. When the rescue team arrived, he told them without changing his expression that he was the only one there. Wu Yiqing stopped the rescue team from opening the coffin. "There's no one inside. If you open it, corpse poison might escape." After going out, Wu Yiqing immediately applied for my death certificate. On the surface, everything seemed flawless as he arranged my funeral. He stared at my memorial photo with a frenzied expression, as if I were his father's murderer. "It was you who stole Meow Meow's position as team leader, causing her to die in the tomb while tomb raiding. You must suffer twice what she endured. This is what you owe her, and only with your life can you repay it. Go down and apologize to Meow Meow in person." My heart felt as dead as ashes. Only then did I realize that the person lying beside me saw me as an enemy, harboring such deep-seated hatred for so long, all for the sake of taking my life. I am unwilling. I cannot rest in peace. When I heard Miao Yusin's request for the second time, I felt neither anger nor resentment. Instead, I couldn't help but laugh, and the laughter grew louder. The pain of betrayal and death, and the surprise of starting over again, intertwined with each other. I cried and laughed, looking like a madman. Wu Yiqing also walked over, and upon seeing my abnormal state, he deeply furrowed his brow. "Sukan, what's wrong with you? Didn't you hear what Meow Meow said? The team leader position isn't that important to you anyway, so why not just let her have it?" I stared at him intently and let out a cold laugh. Why should I? If she has the ability, she should earn it herself instead of resorting to these cheap tricks. Even if I had to do it again, I would still give the same answer. I refused even more directly than in my previous life. Miao Yusin's eyes immediately welled up with glistening tears, and her voice took on a choked, tearful tone. "Sukan, my mother is still in the hospital waiting for money to save her life. I'm counting entirely on this project to get promoted to full professor so I can use the salary to treat my mother's illness. I beg you. I know you look down on me. You can do whatever you want to me, but please, For my mother's sake, just help me this one time." She was crying pitifully, and even made a move to kneel and kowtow to me, but before her knees could bend, she was stopped by Wu Yicheng. The people around who hadn't left yet gathered over, hearing Miao Yusin's tearful account. They all scolded me for being cold-blooded. "Su Kan, you're already a professor, giving up the team leader position wouldn't affect you much, but for Miao Yusin, it's a lifeline. How could you stand by and do nothing when someone's life is at stake, just because you're a professor? You think you're superior and bully the weak. This is truly a corrupt trend. If you have any compassion, give the opportunity to Miao Miao. She's waiting for that money to save her life." Wu Yicheng also looked at me coldly, his face full of disgust. "Su Kan, can you stop being so willful? This project is very important to Miao Miao. You can afford to be casual about it, but she can't. With your attitude, it would be better to let Miao Miao lead the team." He spoke with such finality, dismissing me with just a few words as if I were nothing. I was so angry I almost laughed. What does he mean by casually? How much have I put into this project? Does Wu Yicheng not know? The mountain of reference books is still piled up in the study, the notes I organized fill more than half of a thick notebook, and my computer is filled with information about this. The preliminary sketch of the tomb exploration, I stayed up late for half a month, just to make this archaeological operation as comprehensive as possible. What does Miao Yusin know? She can't even list the tools needed for archaeology. Everyone can see the significance of this archaeological project, and the position of the archaeological team leader has attracted countless competitors. I've put my heart and soul into preparing for so long, and they want me to give up with just a few words. "Why should I said. "If she has what it takes, let her compete fairly. Even if I step down, Miao Yusin still wouldn't be qualified to be the team leader." Miao Yusin was still shedding tears, feeling extremely wronged. "If Sister Su Kan insists on being the team leader, then I'll just withdraw from the archaeology team. Staying here would only annoy Sister Su Kan." "Miao Miao, it's okay, Miao Miao. I wish you and Yicheng a smooth work process." Wu Yicheng became even more furious, pointing at my nose and cursing. "Just because your position is higher than Miao Miao's, do you think you can bully your junior as you please? Have you no shame? You should take the initiative now. Speak more positively about Miao Miao to the person in charge, and recommend her for promotion. Otherwise, don't expect me to forgive you." I looked at Wu Yicheng, utterly disappointed. How could he utter such shameless words and still act as if it's perfectly natural? Without a hint of embarrassment or guilt, I waved my hand dismissively and said sarcastically, "Don't pin that label on me. I don't deserve it. I'll be the one to leave the team instead. So I can you two dear siblings, I'm not participating in this archaeological project anymore. Do whatever you want." Miao Yusin's expression changed. She had been planning to take credit for my work, so she immediately changed her tune. "Su Kan, leaving the team is no small matter. Even if you don't want me to be the team leader, you don't need to threaten me with this." I rolled my eyes. "Are you talking about yourself?" Now the others have also caught on, more or less realizing that I am the main force behind this archaeological effort. Giving up the role of team leader and quitting the archaeology team are not on the same level. If I were to actually leave the team, the final operation would only yield half the result with double the effort, so they started persuading Miao Yusin not to compete for the captain position again. It is said that she indeed lacks the ability. If you don't have the diamond, don't take on the porcelain work. Some people also sarcastically accused her of being selfish and only considering her own interests without regard for the bigger picture. They claimed that it wasn't for her mother's medical expenses at all, especially since the archaeological dig hasn't even started yet, and a promotion or raise is nowhere in sight. It was all just an excuse to seize the team leader position. Miao Yusin turned pale and looked on the verge of collapse. Wu Yicheng held her in his arms with heartache and roared at me, "Su Kan, how far do you have to push someone before you stop? So narrow-minded, going to such lengths over a team leader position. Spare me. Aren't you the one who wanted to quit the team? Don't regret it later. Even if you beg me, I won't let you come back." I sneered coldly and turned to look for the person in charge. "Fine, then I'll go file a report to withdraw from the archaeology team right now." Seeing that I was really about to leave, Wu Yicheng grabbed my wrist instead and said impatiently, "Stop joking. You've prepared for this project for so long. There's no way you'd just quit easily, although you're not the captain. You still have the final say in specific actions. Is that acceptable? Is it really necessary to make a fuss over a title? Being unreasonable. I've never seen someone take advantage to such an extreme." I shook him off and headed straight to the manager's office. I said I wanted to quit the archaeological team, but I didn't actually plan to drop out of the project. Only by letting Miao Yusin go first can they face reality, and I can proceed with the next step of my plan. I met with the person in charge, and as expected, he instinctively rejected my request to leave the team, wanting to keep me, but Miao Yusin wanted to be the team leader and was still sulking on the side. I even declared that I would not join the archaeological team that Miao Yusin was on and firmly withdrew. With a captain like her, I wouldn't dare to participate in the operation. I wouldn't even know how I died. Wu Yiqing immediately stood by Miao Yusin's side and angrily accused me. In the end, the person in charge persuaded me to stay on as a project advisor, at least for now. Without going into the tomb for the archaeological work, when leaving, Wu Yiqing gave me a smug glance. You're the one who wanted to quit. If there are any discoveries in the ancient tomb later, don't come crawling back claiming you're part of the archaeology team. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him any further, so I turned and walked out the door. Then announced my withdrawal from the archaeology team on social media. I also made some sarcastic remarks about Wu Yiqing and Miao Yusin, which were visible to all our colleagues in the archaeology field. Immediately, people started asking for details in a roundabout way. I just kept sighing, my words filled with resentment at the unfairness of heaven. My apprentice Fang Zhixing also joined the archaeology team, arriving with an angry expression, saying he wanted to leave with me. I shook my head. Zhixing, I need you to do me a favor. Before long, the news of Miao Yusin forcing her way into a higher position spread throughout the entire base. Everyone was whispering, but it didn't stop her from leading the team into the ancient tomb. Before entering the tomb passage, Wu Yiqing came to boast to me, so what if you're a professor, you still have to listen to me. All the credit for this archaeological discovery belongs to Miao Miao. I'm warning you. Don't even think about competing with her. I watched them calmly and peacefully as they descended into the tomb. If you want credit, you have to do the job well. Wu Yiqing's confidence in Miao Yusin really shows how deeply he loves her. The archaeological team went down into the tomb, originally planning to open the passageway, but they ended up turning back halfway through the day. The person in charge called me, sounding completely overwhelmed, and asked me to take over the excavation task again. This time, I didn't make any excuses and immediately responded, taking the documents with me. On the way, I overheard some conversations and learned that Miao Yusin, fearing there might be traps in the tomb passage, had recklessly chosen to blow up the trap mechanism. Although she was stopped, it still caused a small collapse, and the group almost ended up trapped inside, suffocating to death. I only knew Miao Yusin was foolish, but I never imagined she could be this foolish. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere was heavy, and the person in charge didn't look too pleased. Without wasting words, I handed over a few tasks to him and quickly went through the process. Just as I finished, Wu Yiqing and Miao Yusin walked in from outside, looking aggressive. Su Kan, I never expected you to stoop to such vicious acts just to obstruct Miao Miao. You are a disgrace to the field of archaeology, and you are unworthy of being my wife. I frowned and said, are you out of your mind? You almost blew up the tomb and endangered the entire team, and now you're here making a scene. Miao Yusin hid behind Wu Yiqing, her eyes red and teary. Sister Su Kan, didn't you instruct me to do all this? You said we needed to experiment with new tomb opening methods, but I never expected you'd even take human lives. I don't care about anything anymore. Wu Yiqing slammed a stack of documents in front of me. No wonder you made Miao Miao the team leader and even left the team. It was all to make her take the blame for you. Everyone present was stunned and began discussing among themselves. I calmly glanced at the materials and made a call to my apprentice, Zhixing, bring your equipment and come over now. Fang Zhixing immediately responded, and I thought of something else, asking him to also find my collection of papers. Wu Yiqing listened to my phone conversation and snorted disdainfully. What, do you think presenting your thesis can absolve you of your sins? No matter how many academic achievements you have, today they all amount to nothing, one step short of success. A person who disregards human life and is morally bankrupt is not worthy of being a professor. You will face public condemnation. I was getting annoyed by what I was hearing, so I picked up the materials from the floor and took a closer look. There were a few analysis diagrams of the blasting method that I had previously left in the room. No wonder Miao Yusin had gone crazy and used explosives to destroy the mechanisms in the tomb. Holding these diagrams, I coldly stared at Miao Yusin. Where did these come from? Miao Yusin avoided eye contact. Wasn't this what you gave me? You asked me to test it for you. Otherwise, why would I suddenly use explosives to detonate? I was deceived too. Yiqing brother, I'm so scared. Boo-hoo. As she spoke, she began to cry, hiding herself entirely in Wu Yiqing's embrace. Wu Yiqing held her, his eyes cold and grim. Su Kan, you still dare to threaten Miao Miao. This matter will not be resolved peacefully today. I chuckled and said, then just wait. Once Fang Zhixing arrives, the truth will come to light. You're just trying to stall for time. What can Fang Zhixing A mere doctoral student, could it be that he was also involved in this harmful scheme you came up with? I remember now, he was the quickest to react back in the tomb. Could it be that he already knew and was just watching on purpose? Sukan, you're truly despicable, Wu Yiqing kept speculating, getting more and more worked up as he spoke, convinced he had uncovered the truth. You're not saying anything, sure enough. You can't argue against the facts. I slammed the table in frustration. Shut up, can't you just wait quietly? You've been talking for so long without any evidence. Aren't you just making baseless accusations against me? Miao Yusen leaned against Wu Yiqing and started sobbing again. How could we have any evidence? Sister Sukan, you were afraid of being held accountable if something went wrong, so you only gave me this blueprint and nothing else. But even if it ruins my future, I can't cover up for you. I have to take responsibility for the people and cultural relics you might harm, I sneered. A single blueprint is enough to convict me. I didn't know passing judgment had become so easy. Everyone in the office also looked confused, but since Miao Yusen and I were giving conflicting accounts, no one spoke for a moment. Wu Yiqing, his face filled with anger, spoke again with righteous indignation. I'm asking you, are these blueprints yours? I glanced at him and nodded. That's true, but... Before I could finish, Wu Yiqing rudely interrupted. He looked smug, as if he had everything under control. All right, I knew it. At least you're honest. It would have been better if you admitted it earlier instead of dragging it out. You really are malicious and vicious. I slapped him hard across the face, but my heart remained surprisingly calm. Wu Yiqing, let me say it again. Whatever Miao Yusen did has nothing to do with me. As my husband, you always take her side. Sometimes I really wonder, do you love me or her? Wu Yiqing's expression changed, a flicker of guilt quickly crossing his face before vanishing in an instant. He quickly adjusted his expression, looking at me with extreme contempt as if he had seen through my thoughts. Sukan, what we're discussing now is how you deceived Miao Miao into conducting the experiment for you. Do you have any idea how much harm this could cause? Don't. Thinking you can escape by changing the subject. You can't get away. I stared at Miao Yusen without blinking. My new method of opening tombs, I had people test it. I'm shirking responsibility. Miao Yusen, are you sure you want to pin these accusations on me? Her expression changed, and she hid behind Wu Yiqing, her face full of fear. Sister Shutsan, don't push me anymore. Your threats are useless. Everyone already knows what you've done. The sooner you confess, the better. It is the right path. If you hadn't deceived me, why would you give up the position of team leader, and why would you leave the archaeological team? Now we have failed, but it's such a coincidence that you became the captain again. Wasn't this all part of your plan? I sneered. It's all your wild speculation, no evidence, but plenty of words. At that moment, a voice came from outside. Who says there's no evidence? A middle-aged woman walked in slowly, her expression serious, but with an uncomfortable scrutiny and judgment in her gaze. It was Professor Wang, Miao Yusen's advisor. Miao Yusen saw her, her eyes lit up, and she walked over pitifully. Teacher, I almost couldn't see you again. I frowned. What does Professor Wang have to do with this matter? Why is she here? The next second, she gave me the answer. Professor Wang pulled up a chat log, which showed Miao Yusen asking her about the specific steps for the blasting method. The chat log clearly mentioned that these were the blueprints I gave to Miao Yusen. I felt speechless. Since when did chat logs become solid evidence? Professor Wang snorted, looking quite arrogant. Of course not. I also called you to ask about the blasting method, and you never refuted it, I patiently said. Then you never mentioned that Miao Yusen said I gave it to her, nor did you say this method would be used for tomb excavation. Dig. Just then, my phone chimed with a notification. I opened it and smiled. I pulled out my phone and said slowly, since everyone says I gave this to Miao Yusen, let's take a look at this. I opened my phone, and there was clearly a surveillance video showing my studio. The surveillance footage clearly showed Miao Yusen sneaking in when no one was around, rummaging through my desk, and taking a few drawings. Then she hurriedly ran off. The whole operation was sneaky, and what she took were exactly those blasting method blueprints used to incriminate me. I held up my phone and sneered, directly confronting Miao Yusen. Didn't you say these were the blueprints I gave you? Why does it look like you were sneaking around to take them in this surveillance footage? Miao Yusen turned pale, widened her eyes, and blurted out without thinking, how could there be surveillance? I crossed my arms and looked at her, my tone icy. If it weren't for the surveillance cameras, wouldn't I have been falsely accused of slander and harming others? Now the suspicious gazes of the crowd turned toward Miao Yusen. Miao Yusen, these are the blueprints you stole from Sukan. Didn't you say she gave them to you? If this is fake, then probably the bombing of the ancient tomb wasn't ordered by Sukan either. Sukan's blueprints were all stolen, so how could she have instructed Miao Yusen to use explosives to blow up the tomb passage? Wow, I never would have guessed Miao Yusen is such a liar. Various ambiguous gazes fell upon her. Making Miao Yusin's face turn pale, with reddened eyes, she looked at Professor Wang with a grievance. Professor Wang avoided her gaze, his face stiff. What she told me wasn't like this. I was deceived too, teacher, Miao Yusin called out to her, her face full of disbelief. I gave a half smile. Then why didn't you stop her when she first came to you? Did you want to watch her fail and then expose me, to bring me down? Or was it because you're also a half-baked amateur? With only a superficial understanding of this blasting solution, Professor Wang's face darkened as he glared at me with a threatening tone. Sukan, I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice. Don't play these games with me. I sneered and didn't press the matter further. He then turned to Miao Yusin with a smile and said, So, still trying to deny it, Miao Yusin's lips trembled as she stammered. Gritting her teeth, she forced out a feeble excuse. What does it matter, either way? This blueprint was found in your desk. You're studying this kind of thing, so you must have ill intentions too. I was just framed by you, otherwise you would have used it in archaeology in the future. Sure enough, even with ironclad evidence, she was still determined to drag me down with her, before I could refute. Another set of footsteps came from outside the door. It was Fang Zhixing arriving. Teacher, I've brought everything you asked for. I first took the collection of papers from Fang Zhixing, flipped to a certain page, and spread it open on the table. I looked at Miao Yusin with a faint, ambiguous smile. You said I was researching a new blasting method, so why not compare those drawings with the 2 missing pages here? Those drawings were immediately brought over, and just by looking at the paper, it was clear they belonged to this book, and in the appendix illustrations of the essay collection, several page numbers were missing, which matched the drawings exactly. Someone was astonished. This collection of essays was published by Professor Su last year, so these drawings have existed for a long time. I then slowly and methodically explained, this isn't some new method I've been researching at all. It's actually an illustration from my paper on Tomb Raiders blasting techniques. Surprised, aren't you? You thought I was developing new methods for excavating ancient tombs, but it's actually just an illustration that fell out of my collection of research papers. Someone immediately looked up the literature online. It really is exactly as described. Miao Yusin was already pale and unable to utter a word. At the same time, I took another item from Fang Zhixing's hand. The recorder they had used when they entered the tomb. I looked calmly at Miao Yusin, who seemed on the verge of fainting. Don't faint now, hold on a little longer, there's still something good inside. Then I turned on the recorder. The footage shows exactly what happened when we entered the tomb, shot from an angle just behind Miao Yusin, capturing some details that others might have missed. Details, at that moment in the tomb passage, just as Miao Yusin had placed an explosive device, Fang Zhixing warned her. Miao Yusin glared at him and proceeded to ignite the explosives on her own. If not for Fang Zhixing's quick reaction, Miao Yusin could have injured herself and blown up the other team members along with her. Watching the footage, he let out a cold laugh. Miao Yusin, Zhixing already warned you, yet you still insisted on having your own way. Isn't it you who lacks capability yet craves greatness, and experiments with others' lives at their expense? This scene was clearly recorded. Leaving Miao Yusin with no room for rebuttal, she opened her mouth, but ultimately closed it in defeat. Everyone glared at her with anger, while the person in charge wore a grim expression. If it weren't for the dashcam capturing the scene, Professor Su would have been wrongly accused for nothing. Miao Yusin, you're a thief crying stop thief. How utterly shameless. The truth has come to light, and Miao Yusin's actions will be reported in full detail to the higher-ups for handling. Miao Yusin glared at me with a face full of resentment, no longer pretending to be pitiful, her tone venomous. Sukan, I didn't succeed, and you won't either. That tomb is so difficult, absolutely no one can manage it. I was somewhat speechless. If your own skills are lacking, why drag others down with you? But before I could speak, another group of people walked in from outside. My student will definitely be able to do it. As soon as I heard the sound, I stood up in pleasant surprise and walked toward the door. Professor, what brings you here? The person leading the group was none other than my former mentor, Professor Zhang. Professor Zhang said with a smile, after you contacted me the other day, I thought it over and decided to come in person, and also to see how you're doing. He glanced around the room and pointed to some machines that had been brought in behind him. This is the new method Sukan came up with, air quality monitoring combined with archaeology and cultural relic preservation. He took out the records from our previous video conference and gave a general introduction. This method can preserve unearthed artifacts to the greatest extent, preventing fragile relics from oxidizing or turning to dust as soon as they are removed from the tomb. Situation. As soon as this idea was proposed, the several experts present were all extremely excited. repeatedly saying it was a groundbreaking innovation. While I was full of ambition and ready to forge a new path, things weren't going so well for Miao Yusen and Wu Yicheng. They had destroyed the ancient tomb first and then slandered me, so they were bound to face severe punishment, and even Wu Yicheng couldn't avoid disciplinary action. Wu Yicheng looked upset and asked me to plead for him. "I'm your husband, how can you just ignore me? Besides, I was deceived too, I didn't know the truth." Ignorance is innocent. Wu Yicheng looked completely justified, not feeling he had done anything wrong at all. Of course, I ignored him and said bluntly, "Whether you are at fault or not will be decided by the judge. Don't think you can escape even the slightest bit of responsibility. Coming to me is useless." His face instantly darkened. "How dare you? Miao Miao didn't do it on purpose. How can you stand by and do nothing? Is such a small mistake worth nitpicking over? We're all like this because of you. If you don't take care of me anymore, I'll divorce you." I laughed lightly and said casually, "Fine, let's get divorced then." I stared coldly at Wu Yicheng's embarrassed expression, speaking word by word. "Remember this clearly, Wu Yicheng, I gave her a chance, but Miao Yusen is just too incompetent to take it, and you don't really think you're such a treasure. Consider me blind, wasting all these years on you. Divorcing you is exactly what I want." Of course, we haven't actually divorced yet, since we're both stuck in this temporary base deep in the mountains, although we can't leave for now. News travels fast. Miao Yusen's disciplinary outcome hasn't been announced yet, but she has almost been expelled from the archaeological community. As for her advisor, Professor Wang, pulling up a radish brings mud with it. He was implicated in numerous misconducts and stripped of all his honors and titles, regardless of what happened to them. After discussing several plans with my teacher, I packed up and immediately entered the ancient tomb. With the experience from my previous life, this excavation went much more smoothly. After entering the ancient tomb, some artifacts that had not been preserved in time were successfully retained. The excavation of the ancient tomb lasted for several days. When the first phase of the project was completed, all the staff involved in the project were very happy, and that evening, a small celebration was held. I sat at the banquet and was persuaded to drink several glasses of wine. In the crowd, I didn't see Wu Yicheng and Miao Yusen, which was a bit strange, although they probably have no face to show themselves now. It's unlikely they wouldn't even be present for meals. After thinking for a moment, I made a few phone calls and stood up to walk out. All the artifacts from this archaeological excavation were stored together in a small room. There are only a few keys to the room, so logically, no one else should be able to get in. But when I arrived, I saw the lock on the door was open, and the door was slightly ajar. With a large group of people accompanying me, I felt not the slightest bit of fear. I walked right up and pushed the door open with a bang. "What are you doing?" The door was wide open, revealing Wu Yicheng and Miao Yusen inside. Sneaking around and doing something with a cultural relic. When they saw us, they immediately panicked and stood up, trying to flee, but they were no match for our large group and were quickly pinned to the ground. I strode forward with a cold expression and discovered they were about to break the carefully preserved bamboo slips. I immediately disregarded everything else and began the rescue effort, working frantically for most of the night. When I came out again, I went straight to where Wu Yicheng and Miao Yusen were being held. As soon as I entered, I slapped them several times and kicked them to the ground. If I hadn't been stopped, I would have stomped on them a few more times. Wu Yicheng howled on the ground. "Su Kan, you're insane. How dare you hit me?" I spat in disgust. "You're nothing but a beast. How dare you damage cultural relics? A few slaps from me are letting you off easy." He looked deranged and burst into maniacal laughter. "It's all because of you. Why do you always have it so easy, succeeding at everything you do, while I am always overshadowed by you? Su Kan, you deserve this." I kicked him again. "The police will be here soon. You can just wait to go to jail." The first phase of the ancient tomb excavation was wrapping up, and the cases of Wu Yicheng and Miao Yusen officially went to trial. Wu Yicheng was sentenced to several years in prison. When he was handcuffed and the verdict was announced, he seemed to finally realize his fear, crying and begging me for mercy with tears and snot running down his face. He begged me for mercy. I filed for divorce, and soon after, I successfully divorced Wu Yicheng. Miao Yusen was also sentenced. As an accomplice, she got 1 year less than Wu Yicheng. I didn't pay much attention and focused on completing the excavation of the ancient tomb. 5 years later, the excavation project of this 1,000-year-old tomb officially concluded. Just like in my previous life, I discovered the ruins of a new civilization within it, filling a blank chapter in human history. With the achievements from this research, I was successfully promoted to the director of the archaeology department at the Cultural Relics Bureau, becoming the youngest chief scientist in a national-level major archaeological project. Since then, I have been dedicated to excavating the ruins of the new civilization, focusing on research in this area. and have been called the first archaeologist of the new civilization. One person, a few years passed like this, and Miao Yusen and Wu Yicheng were released from prison one after the other. I originally had no way of knowing the time, but I never expected to see them on the news. Tomb Raiders turn on each other over uneven distribution of loot, resulting in 2 deaths, remaining suspects all apprehended. When I saw this news headline and clicked on it, I realized it was actually about Miao Yusen and Wu Yicheng. Their identities are no secret. The news has been circulating within the archaeological community, and I've figured out what happened. It turns out that after Miao Yusen was released from prison, she couldn't find work in the archaeological field and, just like in her previous life, ended up joining Tomb Raiders to engage in grave robbing. Later, after Wu Yicheng was released from prison, she also brought him into the group. A group of people were tomb raiding deep in the mountains and unexpectedly discovered a relatively wealthy ancient tomb filled with gold, silver, and jewels, but precisely because there were so many treasures, everyone wanted the lion's share. Wu Yicheng and Miao Yusen teamed up against the tomb raiders, not anticipating their extreme viciousness, and were caught off guard and stabbed to death. Those who mention them can't help but sigh a few words. It serves them right. People like them, who have no sense of reverence, shouldn't be left in this world to cause harm. Moreover, because they destroyed many ancient tombs, our archaeological team had to rush to multiple locations to assist with emergency repairs. Many of the sites were left in ruins, barely recognizable. The team members were all furious. They couldn't understand how 2 former archaeologists could stoop so low as to join forces with tomb raiders. They have no bottom line. I don't feel much, after all. I've long been aware of their low moral standards. After this incident, their legacy has been completely tarnished, becoming a negative example that everyone uses to teach the younger generation. No one will remember or reminisce about them anymore, and I am no exception. The cause of archaeology continues to advance, and I will devote myself to it with unwavering determination. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.